For 300 years, the Keeler border system had existed as little more than a forgotten star on imperial maps. No trade routes crossed it. No colonies survived there. Even pirates avoided its barren gravity wells and frozen moons. Which was why the sudden silence worried no one at first. Then every imperial relay station vanished. No distress signal. No debris field. No enemy broadcast. Just silence. The Galactic Empire dismissed it as sabotage. Maybe smugglers. Maybe scavengers stripping old military outposts. Nothing worthy of concern. A small reconnaissance fleet was dispatched, not warships, just enough firepower to frighten criminals. No one expected trouble. Especially not from humans. In the Empire's eyes, humanity occupied an irritating middle ground. Clever merchants. Stubborn survivors. Innovative when desperate, but militarily unimpressive. Human ships were practical, ugly things, functional steel wrapped around engines and desperation. Reliable, yes. Threatening? Hardly. The idea that humans could threaten imperial dominance was almost comedic. So when the scouting fleet exited warp above Keeler's dead outer moon, confusion spread across every command deck. Something was already there. At first, officers thought their sensors were malfunctioning. The object drifting above the moon's cracked surface was too massive to make sense. It stretched across space like a floating continent. Black. Silent. Motionless. Its hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it, covered in impossible layers of metallic plating that looked more carved than engineered. Endless geometric structures covered its surface like entire cities buried beneath armor. No visible insignia. No recognizable architecture. No thermal signature. Nothing. One captain quietly muttered that perhaps it was ancient alien debris. Another suggested a forgotten superweapon from a dead civilization. But no database matched it. No imperial record existed. The thing simply should not have been there. The fleet moved closer. Closer still. And the scale became horrifying. Imperial dreadnoughts, ships once considered symbols of galactic dominance, would have looked microscopic beside it. This thing dwarfed everything. Entire attack fleets could disappear inside its shadow. Yet sensors returned almost nothing. No engines. No weapons. No communications. No life signs. It drifted like a grave. Command tried rational explanations. A hollow asteroid. A station. A mining structure abandoned centuries ago. Anything but what it looked like. Because what it looked like was a warship. A gigantic one. Someone nervously laughed across the command channel. Humans can't build warships like this. A few officers chuckled. The idea itself sounded ridiculous. Human shipyards lacked the resources. Human politics were too fractured. Human engineering favored efficiency over spectacle. No species built something this large. No species could. Then the fleet alarms activated. Simultaneously. Across every vessel. Red warnings flooded command screens. Sensor interference. Gravity fluctuations. Unknown power spike. The massive object moved. Not much. Just enough. But in the vacuum of space, something that size moving at all felt wrong. Frozen silence spread through the Imperial Bridge crews. Then darkness broke. Lines of pale blue light flickered across the ship's hull. One after another. Thousands of them. Like veins awakening beneath dead skin. The impossible structure hummed to life. Not loudly. Quietly. Patiently. As though it had merely been sleeping. And had finally decided to open its eyes. No one aboard the Imperial fleet spoke for several seconds. The massive structure continued waking. Blue energy lines spread slowly across its endless hull, illuminating layers of armor so thick they looked carved from mountains rather than manufactured. Entire sections shifted with mechanical precision, revealing recessed structures too enormous to identify. Not guns. Not hangars. Something stranger. The fleet commander ordered immediate scans. Nothing made sense. Hull density, unreadable. Energy output, immeasurable. Mass calculations fluctuated so violently that onboard systems crashed trying to process them. Even worse, internal scans suggested something impossible. The ship was larger inside than outside. Engineers argued it had to be sensor corruption. Physics simply did not work like that. Then navigation systems failed. Without warning, nearby cruisers drifted sideways. Gravity distortions spread through the system. A vessel 3 kilometers long spun helplessly off formation before stabilizers forced it back into alignment. Panic quietly replaced confidence. The Empire had fought ancient machine civilizations, hive empires, and biological horrors from forgotten sectors. Nothing had ever distorted space this casually. Command demanded identification. No answer. Again. Nothing. Then a signal arrived. Simple. Clear. Human. Imperial vessels, you are currently inside a restricted defensive perimeter. Further advance is not advised. Every bridge fell silent. Human? That word alone created confusion. No one understood. Human fleets weren't secretive. Human military doctrine relied on numbers, adaptability, and ugly practical ships held together by efficiency. Not this. One intelligence officer nervously referenced long-buried reports. Over the past 2 centuries, thousands of human mining operations had vanished from public records. Entire asteroid sectors were quietly purchased, sealed, then erased from navigation databases. Freight movements never explained. Resource consumption far beyond declared civilian needs. The Empire ignored it. Humans were builders. Industrial. Messy. Always preparing for problems that never happened. Now the pattern felt different. Calculated. Deliberate. The fleet commander opened a secure channel. What exactly are we looking at? The answer came instantly. Cold. Calm. Precise. Designation, Graveyard 1. Silence. The commander frowned. That vessel? A pause followed. Then the human voice returned. No. Another pause. That is Fleet Command. Suddenly, long-range sensors activated. New contacts emerged. Not 1. Not 10. Hundreds. Massive shadows hidden beyond the moon. Dormant. Watching. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Fear spread faster than orders. Across the Imperial fleet, command crews stared at the growing sensor readings in disbelief. Hidden behind the dead moon sat hundreds of massive objects, their silhouettes barely visible against the darkness of space. Every one of them rivaled Imperial capital ships in scale. And they had been there the entire time. Waiting. Watching. The fleet commander demanded answers. The human transmission returned almost immediately. You entered a restricted defense zone. We recommend immediate repositioning. The commander ignored the warning. Defense against what? Silence followed. Not hesitation. Calculation. Then the human voice spoke again. 212 years ago, humanity discovered something beyond mapped space. Encrypted files flooded Imperial systems. At first, commanders assumed propaganda. Then they opened them. Destroyed colonies. Missing exploration fleets. Emergency recordings cut short by impossible shapes moving through darkness. Human settlements erased without battle. No negotiations. No survivors. Just absence. The Empire had never heard of any of it. Because humanity never reported the attacks. Instead of calling for help, humans disappeared. Quietly. Patiently. A realization spread through the Imperial command structure. Those missing mining worlds. The vanished asteroid colonies. The absurd industrial shipments. They had never been economic projects. They had been shipyards. For over 2 centuries, humanity redirected entire economies into secret construction sectors hidden beyond Imperial trade routes. Hollowed asteroid belts became factories. Frozen moons became weapons labs. Generations lived and died building machines no one else believed possible. Not for conquest. For survival. The fleet commander looked again at Graveyard 1. That impossible black giant. How many of these things exist? The answer came without emotion. Enough. Then sensor alarms screamed. Long-range detection arrays activated automatically. Something had entered the edge of the system. At first, officers thought it was interference. Then shapes appeared. Massive. Moving. Too large for known vessels. No recognizable signatures. No communication signals. Just impossible objects drifting out of dark space. Even Graveyard 1 adjusted position. For the first time since arriving, the gigantic warship seemed alert. The human voice returned. Calm. Steady. You believed humanity was hiding from war. A pause. We were preparing for the last one. The Galactic Empire panicked. Emergency councils formed within hours. Military channels flooded with contradictory reports. Intelligence divisions argued over missing data they suddenly realized had been ignored for centuries. Every dismissed rumor about disappearing human colonies resurfaced at once. The conclusion terrified them. Humanity had lied. Not with words. With silence. While the galaxy fought border wars and trade disputes, humans had vanished into forgotten systems and built something unimaginable. And now those hidden systems were waking up. Across Imperial sensors, impossible signatures appeared one after another. Warp distortions spread through nearby sectors. Then the fleet arrived. Thousands of black warships emerged from darkness. Some stretched wider than cities. Others resembled moving fortresses wrapped in armor thicker than mountains. Entire formations traveled in perfect silence, their surfaces absorbing starlight until space itself seemed broken around them. No banners. No celebration. No threats. Just readiness. The Empire finally understood. Humanity had never been technologically inferior. Humans had simply prioritized survival over status. Every resource, every sacrifice, every vanished colony had fed one purpose. Preparation. The Imperial fleet near Keeler received a final transmission. Visual channels activated. For the first time, a human commander appeared. Calm expression. No fear. No arrogance. Only exhaustion. You spent centuries asking why humans never expanded, the commander said. You mistook restraint for weakness. Behind the transmission, more ships emerged from deep space. Moon-sized carriers. Weapon platforms larger than planets. And beyond them, movement. The unknown shapes crossed system boundaries. Dark masses surrounded by distorted gravity. Too massive. Too wrong. Imperial admirals stopped speaking. Even their strongest fleets suddenly looked fragile. One council member finally asked the question no one wanted answered. Can we stop them? The human commander paused. No. Silence crushed the room. Then the commander continued. But together. A distant flash spread across the stars as Graveyard 1 activated weapons powerful enough to bend light itself. We can survive. For the first time in galactic history, the Empire stood behind humanity instead of above it. And as thousands of impossible human warships turned toward the darkness beyond known space, one Imperial officer whispered the words no one would ever forget. Humans really did build warships like this.